Hi, I'm Jason Alexander. You probably know me as an actor, and probably most specifically as the actor that played George on the TV show Seinfeld. What you may not know is I've been a professional actor for close to 45 years now on stage and screen and television. I've been pretty lucky. I've also worked as a director and a dramaturg, occasionally as a writer or a producer. And for the last 30 years, I've been spending a good deal of time working as a teacher of acting. I've had students at college campuses, private acting schools and institutions, and gosh, I've taught and coached actors all across the country and occasionally around the world. It's one of the great joys of my life. And that's why I'm really excited that Protégé has found a method for me to be able to share some of what I've learned and what I teach with people everywhere, possibly you. What I'd like to do in this short video is give you an overview of how I look at material, how I look at actors' performances, and the kind of feedback that I give them so that you can know before you make any investment whether what I've got to offer is right for you. And I'll try and do that in as little time as I possibly can. A lot of people believe that the key to acting is to get yourself into the emotional place of your characters. The thinking is, if I feel what my character's feeling, then I will naturally do what my character should do. And there's nothing wrong with that thinking, other than, I know for some actors, myself included, getting into deep, dark, hysterical, big emotional places out of the ether is a pretty big challenge and can sometimes look kind of fake or phony. The other thing is I've seen plenty of wonderful actors do work that's very, very emotional and real, but isn't necessarily very good storytelling. What I have found over the years is that emotions don't always lead to actions, but actions almost always lead to emotions. That the best way to feel something is by doing something. And it's interesting that actions are the key, because what are we called? We're called actors. Now, actors are asked to do a lot of things. We say the words, we speak the lines, but we're not called speakers, and very rarely are we called orators. We portray the emotions of our characters, but we're not called emoters. We're called actors. And I believe it's because the one thing that we bring to the written word that takes it off the page is actions. Behaviors. It is the behaviors that we link to these words that make performance, that make action, that make drama. So, knowing that, I tend to look at 5 specific areas when I'm assessing a scene, whether it be a writer's work, an actor's work, whatever. And here are the 5 things that I look for very specifically. One is the event. Do you understand the event of your scene? Your scene, your song, your monologue is part of a big story. The author has decided that this moment that you're performing is worth being in their story. You know, they only have a 2-page scene or a 2-page song or a 120-page script, and they've chosen this moment, this scene, as being vital. And that's because there's an event in that piece. Something happens. You have to know what that is. What is the event? Is it a negotiation? Is it a seduction? Is it a battle? Is it the threat of a battle? What goes on in that scene? Narrow it down. Be able to say it in just a few words. What is the scene about? And once you have that idea, then all the other choices you make have to fit like ribs off the spine of that event. So that's the first thing I look for. Do you understand the event? The next thing I look for is, do you understand who you are and who your partner is in that event? What is the emotional relationship? So in any given scene, in any given drama, 2 or more characters come together and try to make the other one do something they wouldn't have done otherwise. Right? That's what we care about. So what is the emotional relationship? Who has the power? Who is the weaker one? Who is the one that's more smitten, more in love? Who is less in love? Who's more in need? Who's less in need? Who is more desperate, and why? What is the emotional relationship? It's not enough to say it's a mother and son. What kind of mother? Mothers have many different personas in our lives, as do sons. It's not enough to say they're best friends. Why is your best friend your best friend? What do they give you? When you see them and experience them, what do they give you that no other friend gives you? So it's very specific, understanding the emotional relationship of you and your partner. Once you understand that relationship, the next question I look to see if people are answering is, what do you want your partner to do? Not think, not feel, although they may think and feel, but that's not the goal. You want to make them do things. Why? In the real world, we never know what anybody really thinks or feels. We know what they say, but that's not necessarily how they really feel. Or they may be very emotional, but we don't know what they're thinking. It could be about something totally different than we think it is. We only know what people do. If they do it, we can rely on it. So your job is to make your partner do things, do something they wouldn't have done otherwise. Sometimes it's a huge thing. Make them charge over the hill and attack the enemy, or make them approach the girl that they're afraid to approach, or make them approach you if you want them to approach you, or make them go away. It can be big things, could be little things. Make them sit down, make them smile, make them laugh, make them understand something that they didn't understand before. But how will you know they understand it? Because you see the light bulb go off. You see them do something that proves they understand it, right? So what do you try to get your partner to do? And not just what do you want them to do at the end. What do you want them to do all along the way? If you want them to run away in fear at the end of the scene, but they're standing there, arms crossed, defiantly, basically mocking you at the beginning, well, you need steps. What do I do to get the look of condescension off their face? What do I do to get them to drop their arms and stop being so defiant? What do I get them to do to gasp? What do I get them to do to back up for a step? And then what do I do to make them run away? Little steps, right? Being in the moment means not playing what you want at the end of a scene too soon. Moment to moment work. The next thing I look for is, what do you do to make your partner do those things? This is the most fun. These are the actions. This is where the verb to, to, comes in, and then a blank. And your job is to fill in those blanks with action verbs, things you could actually pantomime and people would understand it. To invite, to crush, at, to hug, to soothe, to entertain, right? These are actions, playable actions. There's a great book called Actions for Actors. It's chock full of them. Your entire body should be able to play your scene. In fact, your actions want to be so good and so specific that you could actually play your part of the scene without any words. Just your actions would tell your part of the story. And when you can do that, you can then take those actions and make them big, you can make them small, or you can internalize all of them. So that if you're playing in a giant theater, you play them one way. If you're playing with a camera 2 inches from your nose, you play them another way. And your partner always knows what you're asking of them, what you're demanding of them. And then they get to choose what their character would do in response. That's what makes a scene exciting. The last thing I look for is obstacle. Why is a scene never easy? Why can't you just walk in and say, hey, Steve, I really want you to get out of here before Joe shows up? Just do that. Why go through a whole scene? Well, if Joe is stronger than you, and you know if you offend him, he's going to beat you up, you can't just say, hey, man, get out of here. You have to find another way. Or if Steve is slower than you, or Joe, sorry, is the first one. If Joe is slower than you, you may have to do things differently so he understands. Or what if Joe really likes Steve, and if he hears that Steve is going to show up, there's no way he's going to disappear. So there's an obstacle. Now, usually the obstacle is written into the piece itself. But if it's not, adding one, giving yourself a reason why there is no easy way to do this, will add to the texture and the complexity and the interesting qualities of your work. So, event, relationship, what do I want my partner to do, which we call objective, what do I do to make them do it, which we call intention, and obstacle. Those are the 5 things that if you understand them and you've made good, solid, interesting, specific choices about them, your work will probably be the best it can be. And it will certainly be specific and original to you. No one else will make the same choices you do. You will be completely unique in your role. That's what every performer wants, I think. So, if this sounds interesting to you, that's what I offer. Now, there is a fee for these services because it does take me time to watch your pieces, assess what I think might be helpful, and try and get it back to you in a way that I think is clear and concise. So, if you can't afford the fee, I totally understand that, and hopefully you'll find another great teacher or find your way to a path that makes sense for you. But if this sounds interesting and if it's something you can afford, I would love to have the opportunity to look at your work and see if I can offer anything that might be helpful, might improve your craft, might make you the actor you want to be. I can at least try. So, no matter what, I wish you the best of luck, especially if you're an artist of any kind. The world needs as many artists as we can possibly get. I wish you success, and I wish you great good fortune until we meet somewhere out there in the great theater of life. Thanks.